It is 9 in the morning on a Tuesday and you are sitting in a diner you drove past for 18 years. The plate in front of you costs $9. Eggs, toast, a small dish of fried potatoes, and coffee that a waitress keeps filling without you ever asking. You have the whole day. No ladder to climb, no truck to load, nowhere in the world you have to be. And you finish the plate in 11 minutes. Because your body does not know what a free Tuesday is. You wipe your mouth. You are worth more money right now than you have ever been in your entire life. You do not feel it. To understand why a man eats like that, you have to go back to the roof. You started at 18, the summer after school, because that is simply what the men in your family did. 120 degrees on the black shingle in July, the kind of heat that comes up through the soles of your boots and settles somewhere behind your teeth, and you learn to keep working inside it. Your father was on that roof too. 34 years he gave it. And by the time you knew him well enough to notice, his hands would not close all the way. Not fully. Not since a few years before he turned 50, though you only worked that out much later. He never once mentioned it. He would just look at a jar he could not open and set it back down on the counter, quiet, like it was nothing, and had always been nothing. Lunch was a sandwich your mother cut in half and wrapped in wax paper, the same wax paper for decades, eaten sitting on an upturned plastic bucket in whatever thin shade the chimney happened to throw. Nobody talked much up there. The men did not complain. Complaining was for people who thought the heat cared whether you complained. Here's the part that's easy to miss. You did not hate it, and that is the thing it took you the longest to admit. There was something in it that the money would never explain to anyone who had not felt it, the weight of the work, the long quiet between the men, the way your father moved across a roof without ever wasting a single motion. You just knew, the way you know a plain fact and not a feeling, without any drama to it at all, that you were not going to spend your one and only life up there. There was a man at the shop named Ray. You will not think about Ray again for a long time. Keep him somewhere in the back of your mind. Your father is 69 now, and he wears every year of it in his hands. He has been retired for 8 years. And last winter you watched him lie down on the cold concrete of his own basement at 6 in the morning, a flashlight held between his teeth, because both his hands were full, trying to fix a furnace that a paid man would have simply replaced. Nobody was paying him. Nobody needed him to do it. His fingers slipped off the wrench and he did not curse, because cursing was for men who still expected the world to be fair. He just reset his grip and went again. You stood at the top of the stairs and you did not offer to call anyone, because you understood, without a single word passing between you, that the fixing was the whole point. So somewhere in those years you did something quiet. Out of every check, you took a small piece and put it somewhere it could quietly grow. And then, and this is the hard part, you did not touch it, not once, not even in the lean years. The first year it came to $500. 500. It is almost an insult, that number, when you set it down next to a full day of your labor. Small enough to be embarrassing, small enough that it feels like it can never matter, small enough to quit over. But this is the one machine in your whole life that runs on patience instead of on sweat, and it does not care how strong you are. The money you set aside earns a little, and then that little earns a little. And then the earnings start earning on their own, and the line on the page slowly stops being straight. 500 became 61,000. That took years, and it felt like nothing, and then one night it did not feel like nothing anymore. 61,000 became 300,000. Now watch what happens. Once the pile is large enough, the amount it makes on its own in a single quiet year stops looking like interest and starts looking like a wage. Not your wage. A grown man's wage. And you are sitting at your kitchen table at 11 at night with a spreadsheet open, and there are 2 columns on the screen. One is what the roof pays you. The other is what the money makes while you sleep. And the gap between those 2 columns, the one you sweat for and the one you sleep through, is closing a little more every year. I want to be honest about one number here. Say the money grows at 7% in a good stretch, And that is an example, not a promise, because some years it does far less, and some years it does nothing at all. But run it forward and the pile reaches $900,000. And at $900,000, in a decent year, at that kind of return, the account earns more in 12 months than a full year on the roof ever paid. That is the crossover. That is the exact thing the title of this promised you. The day your money out-earns your body. Here is the scene where, by every rule you were ever taught, it should have felt like winning. You were at a family dinner. Your father, 69, was laughing, going on about a guy from the shop, his hands wrapped around a coffee cup he could not fully close. And in your head, quietly, running underneath every word he said, sat the number $300,000. You looked at him and you thought about telling him, just saying it out loud. And you did not. It was too big to explain. So you let him keep believing you were a roofer running behind on the payments for a work truck, because the truth would have opened a distance between you that no dinner table could hold. It was a kind of lie. You told it to protect him, the same way he had spent a whole life protecting you from things you never even saw. This is not a story about getting rich. This is not a story about being clever with money. This is not a story about a spreadsheet that finally paid off. But it gets worse, and this is the part that nobody ever prices for you. The math is real and the math is merciless, and it does not care in the slightest which life you would have chosen. Every dollar that Pyle earned, it earned honestly. But there was exactly one thing the compounding could not do, and it was the only thing that ever truly mattered. It could not run time backwards. The same years the line on your screen bent quietly upward were the very years your father's back was bending down. The account climbed as the man came apart, and no return, in any year, buys back a single one of those mornings. So let me set two men in front of you. Same roof, same year, same crew. They start on the same Tuesday at 18. Same first check, same $500 in their pocket at the end of that first week, same sandwich on the same plastic bucket. The only thing different between these two men is where that $500 goes. The first man takes the gap, the difference between what he earns and what he spends, and he feeds it to the machine, and he does not touch it. The second man takes the same gap and puts it into things you can stand on. A truck that starts on a cold morning. A roof over his own family. The heating bill in December, paid in full, whatever else happens that month. A jar of savings for the year the work runs thin. Do not let anyone tell you the second man was a fool. Every single thing he bought was real. You could put your hand on all of it. And if you are being honest with yourself, sitting there with all your numbers, the second man, in almost every way that actually counts, is your own father. Now run both men forward 40 years, and watch where they each land. The first man, you arrives at $900,000 and a Tuesday with nothing in it. And you already know exactly what that Tuesday looks like, because it is the same one you started with. It is the diner. It is the $9 plate you can finally afford to sit down and eat. And it is the 11 minutes. Because 40 years taught your body that sitting still is a thing you get punished for, and no amount of money has untaught it that lesson yet. The second man arrives at 69 with worn hands and a furnace he is fixing himself. He has been retired for 8 years, and he still drives across town to the shop on a Tuesday morning for a cup of coffee that no one on earth is paying him to drink. His fingers slip off the wrench, and he does not curse. And here is the thing it took you 40 years and $900,000 to finally understand. For that man, the work was never really about the check. It was the reason to get up in the dark, the shape that held his days together, the daily proof that he was still a man his family could stand on. It was never the paycheck, it was the man who came home with it. There is a version of this video that ends right here and tells you a comfortable lie. So let me be straight with you instead. The money is good, and it would be a lie to pretend that it is not. The freedom is real, and I would not hand a day of it back, but it did not buy back a single roof. It did not straighten one finger on your father's hand. It did not give either of you back one single morning that the years had already spent. Compounding freed you from the fear of the bill. It could not free you from the man the work had already made of you, and after a while, quietly, you stop even wanting it to. And then, at the shop, an old roofer named Ray tells you something. Your father never said it to your face, not once in 18 years. He never once told you he was proud, never praised you anywhere close to where you might actually hear it. But he told the whole shop, for years, to anyone who would listen, that you were the best roofer he had ever put on a roof. And standing there, you realize the 18 years were never really about escaping that roof at all. They were about earning one sentence from a man who did not know how to say it, and you had already earned it long before the first dollar ever compounded. So here is where all of this leaves you. First, the plain fact: money can out-earn your labor. The math that gets it there is real, and if you have the patience that most people simply do not, you can build the thing. Second, the harder fact: the check was never the thing you were building. Third, the one that sits in your chest: whatever you are stacking up right now, you may already hold the thing it was quietly pointing at, and you simply have not heard anyone say it out loud yet, which brings you back to the diner, the $9 plate. The free Tuesday your body still does not trust. Only this time, you are not going to finish it in 11 minutes. This time you set the fork down, and you let the morning be long. What did your father build that no account could ever hold? I am reading the replies to this one. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not financial advice, and it does not recommend any specific product, investment, or strategy. Figures described as examples are illustrative. Always do your own research and consult a qualified professional before making a financial decision.